Hi, students. Just some highlights to point out. You do have to read this whole document yourself. It's self-explanatory. You becoming proficient speakers is at the heart and soul of what we do in language classes. So that means you have to devise a whole entire system, how your classes are set up, how your classes will be graded, what you're using to teach those classes, etc. There needs to be a whole entire system that's working together to support that. You need to have very dynamic input, listening sources, and also you need to, or reading sources, and you also need to have the opportunity to produce. So I cannot underscore the importance enough of what Vista will be to you while we are in particular in this distance learning situation. In the past, Vista was used more as a supplement. It was used more as it wasn't used every single day per se, but in this distance learning environment, and even with hybrid, when half of the class isn't here, the lesson that we're delivering has to be the same for kids at home, which means essentially you're building an online lesson every single day. The only difference is if you're in school, you have access to myself and your peers to get additional support, questions answered, that sort of thing. So in this current environment, you completing the practice that's on Vista is your number one thing that you want to make sure you're getting done every day. So, and then we have a system set up for grading that is going to encourage that practice, if you will. So you can read over the top in this part in yellow what you're seeing here. We have two different kinds of assessments, formally graded assessments and informal. So you get a lot of informal assessments. Here's another trick, problem, if you will, for, a tricky thing for distance learning. When students are in front of you as a teacher, students aren't aware of it, but teachers are, and we are reading the room. We're reading everything that you're doing. We're watching your faces. We're listening to several of you at a time as we go around and circulate, because we're looking to see that you're following what we're doing, that we're following what we're teaching. And when you're not in front of us, when we can't see your faces, when we can't hear what you're saying, it makes this job incredibly difficult. So the other thing that we're doing is using the data that we are collecting from Vista and then these other places. So for example, Flipgrid, the one from yesterday, it's a super simple assignment, but even to check your comfort level in that type of area. And some kids, you were asked to respond to 8 of your peers. Some kids are going to be very comfortable doing that. Click on and go for it and, make up questions, and other kids will not be yet. So it's my job, it's our job as language teachers here to get you comfortable with that. So we're watching a variety of things. So your completion of all of this is more important than your accuracy at this point. We're not, you're just coming back after being away for a long time. You all were in Spanish 1 last year. The majority of you will have went through Spanish 1 as a middle school, and you could have had, a whole third of it be, try 3 when we were doing this distance learning. And teachers are at different places with their ability to put content online. So I really don't know how that went for you last year. I know what we were doing here at Anoka High School, but I don't know how your teachers were doing there. And I don't think that you, from coming from Anoka Middle School and even the Spanish 1, you maybe did not see Vista a lot last year, but we do use it in 2. So we're working, getting you feeling comfortable with that. But I'll just say it plainly. If you think that you can blow it off and not do it and I won't notice and it won't matter, you're wrong. So charting progress and feedback. You can see it right there, Vista. I keep talking about it, right? You're going to have weekly practice. Google Classroom for all world language courses in the district. We can't create content. We can't create these videos out of nowhere and put things up. It's a very different class to teach. So whereas maybe you're in your social studies class or something, you can listen to the teacher lecture about something and then, take a little quiz. That sort of scenario will get you zero skills in a world language classroom. It will not help you progress. So we have different platforms, we have different things that we have to use. So you're always checking Google, and just like you saw the agendas posted, but every little thing that you're doing is not going to be linked into some kind of, Google assignment and a form in there. It's not going to function like that. So once in a while you'll have something like that, in particular when you write something, but like a paragraph or something, we frequently use Google Classroom for that because you can have the instructions on there and you can have your own little form created, and it's easy for us teachers to collect and grade since we're not collecting paper. But for the most part, it's a tool to disseminate the agenda, and then you go to these other places. So Vista, and then the other platforms that we're using. Yesterday you were doing some stuff on Flipgrid. We will be doing some things with Ed Puzzle also, but really it's those three. Vista, Flipgrid, and Ed Puzzle are the primary ones. The when and how, as far as when and how we're going to be looking at this stuff, Monday. Monday's the day. That's the day that you need to remember. So a week from today, I'm recording this right now on Monday. You're going to be listening to it tomorrow, Tuesday, when you're, from home after we have a little bit of conversation at the beginning. But Monday at 2:20, I'm going to generate these reports. And with Vista, for example, I can go in and I can see everything. I can see if you logged on. I can see the number of minutes right down to the second that you were in Vista. I will see your percentage that you earn on the activities if they're listed as a score. So there's all kinds of tools there, and we'll be using that information to put in to Synergy, or the gradebook that you and your parents will access via the Anoka Lock and Key. The Google and the Google gradebooks should have been disabled in all of your classes, from what I understand, just so that people don't get confused as to what the gradebook is. It's when you log into your AHS Lock and Key. Like even Vista has a gradebook, and I should mention that also. Um, I use that data, but I'm not in Vista that they generate. But like if your Vista is showing, because it's practice, right? You're practicing and you're not going to practice perfectly. So let's say that your score in Vista is like, 82%. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be giving you a B minus in the class or something like that. So be aware of that also. It's what I transfer into the regular gradebook via lock and key. Um, then back here, formative assessments, and there's your graded categories at the bottom. So when I set that gradebook up via the lock and key for Anoka High School, you have these different categories, and at the end of each unit, you'll have a summative assessment in each of those categories. They're 100 points apiece. They're announced. You'll know when they're happening. And leading up to those, it'll be about once every 4 to 5 weeks. So you'll have at least 2, preferably 3 before the end. And then you have the formative ones also. So read over this, and we will discuss more things as we go along, but just get a general idea as far as how we're going about doing things in Spanish class. And I think what I'll do, I'm thinking of this right now, thinking out loud. I think I'll create a Google form to go along with this video, and then collect questions that you have, and I'll give you, some time to get questions on there, and then maybe we'll circle back next week. I'm not a believer that we need to be in understanding of how every little thing is going to be working with the class and how everything is graded. So get an idea, give your best effort to complete the agenda every day, and we're just going to take it from there as more detailed things arise, as more explanation is warranted. Then we'll talk more in depthly. But this is just too much information to come away with currently. So at any rate, adios.